Hi, everybody. My name is Sina Khanifar. I'm the CEO at rsrf. We're a nationwide systems integrator, and we deploy DAS systems inside all kinds of buildings all around the country.
So, Sina, you mentioned that, in talking about rsrf, that you are installing DAS systems in buildings all over the country. And that's a noble endeavor because the 80%, we talk about this number all the time, and Luke and I laugh about it fairly regularly. 80% of voice and data is generated indoors. So why are we building out all this coverage outdoors when the coverage is really needed indoors? So can you talk us through what you are doing to bring that coverage indoors to buildings, but also what is the 5G portion of what you're doing right now? Are you bringing 5G to customers with their current DAS systems? And talk us through that, please.
So right now, it's really building owners, operators. Everyone's asking us about 5G. And right now, it's about having a really clear upgrade path for when the carriers make the technology available for us to roll out real in-building 5G. Now, there are ways right now to have some amount of that 5G signal that's popping up outdoors brought into buildings. So if you're working, for example, with an off-air system where you're amplifying the signal from outdoors to bring it in, then that's a situation where you can have 5G inside the building. But there are reasons why that technology or using an off-air system is great in some situations if you have great signal outside the building. There are other situations where that's not the case, and you can't rely on the signal outside the building. So really at the moment, we're talking to building owners and operators about their 5G needs and what 5G is going to look like inside their building. I think a huge part of that is smart buildings. When people are choosing a DAS for their building today, they're building the infrastructure for what's going to support the next 10 years of connectivity in that building. So you're building it for people's phones and handsets. Absolutely, that's maybe the main use case today, but you're really building it for the potentially thousands of IoT devices that are going to be deployed inside that smart building over the course of the next decade. And so thinking ahead to how that infrastructure that you're installing can support that kind of technology and how that's going to add value to the building, increase both the property value of the building, but also for the tenants, whether they're office workers helping making them more productive, or if it's residents making them healthier and more connected. So I think thinking about that kind of longer time frame is really, really critical when it comes to deploying wireless systems inside buildings today, because the landscape is changing. Like Luke said, we have more bandwidth. We're going to have much lower latencies, and that's going to enable a whole new class of devices to come on.
So how does all this, most of the people that are listening in with us today are real estate people, and they want to know more about these technologies and what's going on and what do they need and how soon do they need it. And so how does all this apply to real estate?
Because wireless is the fifth utility or utility-like service, whether you know it or not. And you have to be appeasing the tenants. You have to be appeasing your bankers to get the financing. You have to be appeasing the brokerage community to make sure that they are leasing up or transacting your property if, when, and where you're in the marketplace. And I think that eventually, at some point, Rich, even the appraisers of real estate, Sina and Adam talked about that. I mean, it's going to be an element of the real estate value that then is incorporated into it.
Thanks, Luke. I couldn't agree more with the concept of a wireless master plan. I think that's right on point. We have REITs, building owners, operators reaching out to us every day, and a lot of folks don't know how to approach, building a wireless system, planning a wireless system for their building, and planning for 5G. And I think probably the first step, right, is picking the right partner. The system integrator who you choose to work with is really your guide as you're choosing what kind of system to deploy. and they're your partner for the lifetime of the system. And that could be as long as 10 years, right? So you have to think about that relationship on that kind of longer time scale as you're picking someone. And some of the things to look in an integrator might be, you know, that they understand fundamentally the wireless technologies that they're deploying. They understand your market, and they understand maybe the smart building applications that are coming down the road. I think that's part of it, you know, kind of technology understanding. Probably the most important part is trust, right? It's a paid vendor relationship, sure, but you know, you have to know that your integrator has your best interests in mind, and that you have kind of a human relationship with them. And then finally, you know, you want them to communicate clearly with you, but you also want an integrator who's kind of really going to put ongoing attention into that relationship. If this thing is going to last 10 years, if this DAS that you're deploying is going to last 10 years in your building and it's going to be upgraded over time, you know, you don't want to choose a huge system, nationwide systems integrator that isn't, you know, going to have the time of day for you, you know, 2 years down the line. You know, you want to work with a company that is really going to, you know, put time and effort in and be available as your needs develop over time. And the key plumbing to that building that's going to keep your tenants safe and productive is that wireless system. And so, you know, thinking forward to some of the smart building applications, you want to have an infrastructure that's future-proof. You know, you don't rip and replace your water pipes every 3 years. You don't want to rip and replace your DAS system every 3 years either. Right. So figuring out that upgrade path, having that plan in place, I think, and working closely with your integrator to build that plan, I think is really key. Right. I think one of the big pieces there that we're looking at the moment is the C-band, which is a new frequency that was just licensed. All three of the major carriers, so Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile, have bought some of the C-band licenses. And that's going to be a big part of how 5G develops. I think in thinking about your infrastructure and making, as Luke mentioned, your kind of master plan for the next 10 years, you've got to think about what frequencies are going to be rolled out by the carriers. At the moment, 5G is rolled out by T-Mobile, for example, on their low band, which is for outdoor coverage, on the mid band, which is really where a lot of the in-building coverage will come in. And then Verizon, for example, is doing a lot of millimeter wave work at the moment, which is really only going to apply for spot coverage. It gets blocked by everything, right? Windows, doors, walls. And C-band is really kind of an extension of some of that mid-band stuff that's going to apply to in-building. And that's somewhere we're putting in a lot of thought about what kind of systems can we deploy today so that when, you know, C-band is rolled out in 2022, we can come and add it to a system easily and bring in the advantages that extra spectrum is going to have.